The Gable Window, Part 3. I would never have known about the star if it had not been accidentally brought to my attention. My cousin had written repeatedly about making, breaking, constructing, and destroying the star as a necessary adjunct to his illusions, but this reference was utterly meaningless to me, and would perhaps have remained so had I not chanced to see, in the slanting light across the floor of the gable room, the faint marks which seemed to outline a five-pointed star. This had been invisible before, because it had been covered by a large rug, but the rug had gotten moved in the course of my packing the books and the papers to be taken to the Miskatonic University Library, and thus my sight of the markings was an accident. Even then, it did not dawn upon me that these markings represented a star. Not until I finished my work with the books and papers and could push back the rug from the entire center of the floor did the whole design present itself. I saw then that it was a star of 5 points decorated with various ornamental designs, the whole of sufficient size to permit it being drawn from within it. This then, I knew at once, was the explanation for a box of chalk for which I had previously found no reason for being in my cousin's favorite room. Pushing the books, papers, and all else out of the way, I went for the chalk, and set about faithfully copying the star design and all decorations within the star. It was clearly meant for some kind of cabalistic drawing, and it was equally evident that the performer was required to sit within its outlines. So, having completed the drawing in accordance with the impress left by frequent reconstructions, I sat within the design. Quite possibly, I expected something to happen, though I was still puzzled by my cousin's references in his notes as to the breaking of the design each time he thought himself menaced, for, as I recalled the rituals, it was the breaking of such designs which brought about the danger of psychic invasion. However, nothing whatsoever took place, and it was not until several minutes had passed that I remembered the words. I had copied them, and now I rose to find my copy, and, finishing it, I returned with it to the star and gravely spoke the words, Fnigli, Migloch Watnaf, Cthulhu, ry'leth, Wugach, Nagl, Flatan. Instantly, a most extraordinary phenomenon took place. I was seated, facing the round window of clouded glass in the south wall, so that I saw everything that happened. The cloudiness vanished from the glass, and I found myself, to my astonishment, looking upon a sun-baked landscape. Though the hour was night, a few minutes past 9 o'clock of a late summer evening in the state of Massachusetts. Yet, the landscape which appeared through the glass was one which could not have been found anywhere in New England, an arid country, a land of sandy rocks and of desert vegetation, which was spare of caverns and, in the background, snow-capped mountains. Just such a landscape had been described more than once in my cousin's cryptic notes. Upon this landscape, I gazed in the utmost fascination, my mind in turmoil. Life seemed to be going on in the landscape, to which I looked, and I picked out one aspect after another, the rattlesnake crawling sinuously along, the sharp-eyed hawk soaring overhead, which enabled me to hear that hour was not long before sundown, for the reflection of the sunlight on the hawk's breast was indicative, and the Gila monster, the roadrunner, all those prosaic aspects of American Southwest I saw. Where was the scene then? Arizona? New Mexico? But the events of that alien landscape kept on without reference to me. The snake and Gila monster crawled away. The hawk plummeted downward and came up with a snake in its talons. The roadrunner was joined by another. And the sunlight drew away, making of that land a face of great beauty. Then, from the mouth of one of the largest caverns came the bats. They came flowing from that black maw by the thousands in an endless stream, and it seemed to me that I could hear their chittering. How long it took for them to fly out into the gathering twilight, I do not know. They had hardly gone before something more made its appearance. A kind of human being, rough of skin, as if the desert sand had been encrusted upon the surface of his body, with abnormally large eyes and ears. He seemed to be emaciated, with ribs showing through his skin, but what was particularly repellent was the look of his face, for he resembled an Australian toy bear called a koala. And at this, I remembered what my cousin had called these people, for there were others following that first, some of them female, sand dwellers. They came from the cavern, blinking their great eyes, but soon they came in greater haste, and scattered to both sides, crouching behind the bushes. Then, little by little, an incredible monster made its appearance. At first, a probing tentacle, then another, and presently, half a dozen cautiously exploring the cave's mouth. And then, from out of the darkness of the cavern's well, an eldritch head showed dimly. Then, as it thrust forth, I almost screamed aloud in horror, for the face was a ghastly travesty on everything civilized. It rose from a necklace body, which was a mass of jelly-like flesh, rubbery to the eye, and the tentacles which adorned it took rise from that area of the creature's body, which was either its lower jaw or what passed for a neck. Moreover, the thing had intelligent perception, for from the first it seemed to be aware of me. It came sprawling out of the cavern, its eyes fixed upon me, and then began to move with unbelievable rapidity toward the window over that rapidly darkening landscape. I suppose I had no real concept of the danger in which I sat, for I watched with rapt attention, and only when the thing was blotting out all the landscape, when its tentacles were reaching towards the gable window and through it, that I recognized the paralysis of fright. Through it! Was this then the ultimate illusion? I remember breaking through that icy fear which held me long enough to pull off a shoe and hurl it with all my might at the glass. And at the same time, I recalled my cousin's frequent references to breaking the star, so I slouched forward and wiped part of the design into oblivion. Even as I heard the sound of shattering glass, I slipped into merciful darkness. I know now what my cousin knew. If only I had not waited quite so long, I might have been spared that knowledge. I might have continued able to believe in illusion, in hallucination. But I know that the clouded glass of the gable window was a potent door into other dimensions, to alien space and time, an opening to landscapes Wilbur actively sought at will, a key to those hidden places of the earth and the star spaces where the followers of the ancient ones and the old ones themselves lurk forever, awaiting their time to rise again. The glass from Lang, which might have come out of the Hyades, for I had never learned where my cousin had got it, was capable of being rotated within its frame. It was not subject to mundane laws, save only that its direction was altered by the Earth's movement on its axis. And if I had not shattered it, I would have loosed upon the Earth indeed a scourge from other dimensions, unwittingly called forth by my ignorance and curiosity. For I know now that the models from which my cousin drew the illustrations, however crude, among his notes were alive, and not the product of his imagination. The final, crowning proof is indisputable. The bats I found in the house when I regained consciousness might have come in through the broken window. That the clouded glass had cleared might not have been an optical illusion. If it were not, that I know better. For I know, beyond doubt, that what I saw was not the product of my feverish fancy, because nothing could demolish that final, damning proof which I found near the shattered glass on the floor of the gable room, the cut tentacle, 10 feet in length, which had been caught between dimensions when the door had been shut against that monstrous body to which it belonged. The tentacle no living servant could identify as belonging to any known creature, living or dead, on the face or in the subterranean depths of the earth.